If you were at the movies, I might suggest that you go get some popcorn and a Coke to drink. If we were in a group counseling session, I'd suggest plenty of Kleenex. But I'll simply say just sit back and relax, have a laugh, and maybe a tear or two. We're going to take you on a journey that began some 17 years ago in late 1990 and bring you up to 2008. This is the journey of the Fentons and First Lutheran Church. Enjoy.
In our 73-year history,
First Lutheran Church has been led by only 9 permanent pastors.
of these, 2 have been our shepherd longer than any others. Pastor Leon D. Brown from 1960 to 1974,
named Pastor Emeritus in recognition of his 60 years in ministry.
and Pastor Philip R. Fenton, whose tenure began on January 20th, 1991, and ends today, August 3rd, 2008. According to Synod records, Philip Ray Fenton graduated from Luther Theological Seminary in St. Paul, Minnesota on May 27, 1979, with a Master of Divinity degree. We have it on good authority that Phil was an outstanding student at seminary. He only received less than perfect marks on June 26, 1977, while interning at Zion Lutheran Church in Fairview, Montana, when a parishioner deducted 5 points from his sermon grade card for failure to mention Martin Luther by name. He was formally ordained at our Garfield location on June 17, 1979, where he had previously attended and served for many years. His first pastoral service location was at Rolag Lutheran Parish in Hawley, Minnesota, where he served from July 1979 to February 1983.
Pastor Phil's letter of call to lead our congregation was formally issued on December 18, 1990.
Carol, throughout the years, your personal contributions to our church, the community, and your husband's ministry have been many. You have taught our Sunday school students and in our public school for more than 18 years and have earned the Distinguished Teacher of the Year award during your tenure in the Pine Tree School System.
Pastor Phil and Carol,
Both of you have been a blessing to our congregation and to our community, and we will miss you.
but please know that we wish you the very best in your new venture. Before you go, there are some folks whose lives you have touched during your time in Longview that have a few thoughts to share with you.
I can't remember the year, and I cannot remember the pastor that was here, but Harry and I were members of the evangelism committee, and the pastor had given us a list of the names of people he wanted us to visit. So this one night, it was after supper time, and we went out to visit, and we were on our way home, and I said, there's one person on here that lives on Diane Street. It's just 1 block off of High, so I said, let's just stop there on our way home. So we did. We went up and pulled up to the house, and we went up and rapped on the door, and this lady answered, and she was in a robe and on pajamas, and we told her we were from First Lutheran Church and that we had come to invite her to come to church. And so she said, now, I've had my shower and my kids are all bathed and ready for bed. Said, if you want to come in, you're welcome to come in. She said, if it doesn't bother you, it doesn't bother me. So I said, well, okay, if you don't mind, we'll come in and sit and talk to you for a few minutes. So we went in and we sat and chatted for a little bit. I always like to say that I met Pastor Phil in his jammies. He was ready for bed. Never. I've never known a preacher that could preach a sermon like he could. He keeps me every Sunday. I listen to every word he said. And some pastors, you can't do that. you wander off on something else, you know. But I've never done that with Pastor. His sermons are fabulous. He's a very caring person and always was there when you needed him. I remember when Harry was so bad, my daughter-in-law said, every time we need Pastor, we look up and there he is. He just had an uncanny sense of knowing when you needed him. He has taken good care of this church. He's been a good preacher, and I really hate to see him leave, but I feel that the Lord will take care of us. He'll get us somebody.
The first recollections that I have of Phil was Pastor Brown was teaching confirmation class, and at that time, I think I recall him mentioning something about Phil being one of his outstanding confirmation students. Then, and I guess must have been about 1971, I was superintendent of the Sunday school, and as anybody that's been a Sunday school superintendent, the toughest job is recruiting teachers. I really did not know anything about his background. I knew that his parents were Ernest and Sue Fenton were members, and I knew his brother. I knew his sister Julie, and I knew that they were all there. I did not know at the time that Phil had essentially grown up in Venezuela, and then his dad worked for Laterno. And I just assumed that they were always Lutheran, and I really don't know whether they were or weren't, but I do know that they turned out to be a very good Lutheran. We had a meeting and everything, and of the kids, and so I asked him, would anybody be interested in helping out in the Sunday school by teaching? And I mean, his hand went up just like that, immediately. One of the things that I noticed about Phil in almost anything that he did was his level-headedness and his degree of maturity. And of course, I certainly have some vivid memories of his mother, Sue, who was the lollipop lady. And we could never quite understand why all the kiddos after Sunday school would flock and want to sit next to Miss Sue in that front pew. Well, it turns out she had a cache of lollipops, and of course the kids immediately glommed on to that. And I can still remember Carrie Kaplan, among others, that would sit right next to her, and the fact that he displayed the characteristics of a leader way early on in his tenure there at First Lutheran. It's something that we haven't looked forward to. We knew that a minister of his qualities and a minister of his capabilities, we were not going to be able to keep him. And we hope the best for him, because we know that his mission here is pretty much fulfilled. I would think, you know, he's pretty much presided over the building of the relocation of the church and the building of the sanctuary. And he's been here 17 years. He's been here longer than any minister in the history of First Lutheran.
I met Phil at either Fedway or Dillard. I think it was still Fedway. He came from college and worked with us for the summer. It would probably been 1971. He knew me as Gene Kennedy, and we enjoyed him so much. He was such a fine, outstanding, very handsome young fella. All the girls really thought he was it, but worked around us. He was such a gentleman, and then went over into electronics, and just seeing pictures in the paper of him and so forth is how I always kept up with what he was doing.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matthew Mellon.